Hi, my name is Sophia Wren, and I'm a writer and intuitive counselor and creator of the Sacred Armor e-course, Creating Better Boundaries for Sensitive Women. And today I want to talk to you about the 3 things that great writers have that other writers don't, and how you can get them if you don't. So, first off, writers all have their own voice. Voice is something that's really important in all areas of creativity. And you could even take any of these following suggestions for any other creative act. I just happen to be primarily a writer in my creativity, so I'm going to speak about voice. So voice is something that they're not imitating another writer. They're not putting on the voice of somebody else and trying to run with that because that author has been successful. That doesn't make you a great writer. It could perhaps make you a good writer, but originality is something that is really honored in the artistic community. And so what's important is that you might not be everyone's cup of tea. And that's what makes someone original, is that it actually puts some people off and some people are interested in them. Sometimes writers are completely ahead of their time, just like artists or painters, and people don't necessarily appreciate them in massive numbers until later on in their career. So it is challenging for writers who are in the beginning or who aren't, a great famous writer yet, which is most writers, because they're always going to be in this kind of in-between area of not knowing if their writing has an appreciative audience or if they're going too far with something, and trying to balance that with who they are. And that brings me to the second point that all great writers have that other writers don't, which is the ability to take feedback gracefully. And I really believe in this one because I've done a lot of critiquing for other writers. I've been a reviewer for a lot of indie authors. In fact, I spent a whole year and a half doing mostly this on my blog. And it's kind of gone another direction now because I'm busy writing my own book and with my own courses and things like that. But it's really important to be able to take criticism. Why? Because criticism is how you know if people are hearing your voice the way that you want to be heard. It's not just about us. The thing about communication is that it's a two-way street. We're trying to communicate with somebody else. And what makes someone a great writer isn't that they write all these things and then they stay under their bed and no one ever sees them. It's that they've taken out that work and they've polished it and they've shown it to other people. They've heard what everybody else has to say, even the most critical and the meanest people. And they've been able to juggle which feedback is helpful, which feedback is by someone who's never going to appreciate their voice, and which feedback is going to really help them to polish their work and have it be even better and greater than ever before. So this is a challenging area for a lot of writers, and I can tell you that I always think that a writer is much more professional when they can take my criticism, which is offered in the spirit of improving the art, and say, thank you, I will look over these, or I will go work on them. Thanks for all the time you put into telling me all these areas where I can improve. On the other hand, if a writer was going to shun me for not giving them a 5-star rating or something like that, well then I don't consider them to be a great writer because I think that that's a necessary part. And I know from my own writing, it's probably the most difficult thing I'm talking about, to let someone critique your baby and give you feedback, and it can be extremely triggering and you can take it very personally and it's easy to, but you always have to remember that whatever you created is not you. It is a separate thing and it's going to live on without you. So you have to make sure that it's going to stand on its own legs and be able to walk around without you in the world, without you explaining that, no, this is what it's supposed to mean. No, I didn't mean it like that. This is perfect the way it is. You just don't understand. It needs to live on its own, and in order to make sure that you've completely rounded it out outside of your own head, you need to be able to take feedback in a graceful way. Okay, and so the third thing, which I'm going to talk about, is what makes a great writer, is boundaries. And really this is sort of woven into all the other things, because boundaries is what keeps you from letting somebody else overly influence you if that's not going to be in line with your artistic vision and your voice. It's going to help you to turn down the noise so you don't necessarily have to go living in a log cabin in the middle of the woods for the rest of your life to write great art. Boundaries are what keeps you separate. It's what keeps that very critical person from tearing your heart out. It's what keeps you also from having being too entangled with your own characters. And this is something that I've really had to work on in my book. I've been writing, the working title is called From Girl to Goddess, and a lot of it in the beginning was inspired by my own life. And there is a lot of that in there, but it becomes a challenge when you're thinking like, oh, this character is just like me, how would I react? Versus this character is its own character, because someone picking up the book is not necessarily going to think like this is the same person because they have a different name. They have to take on a different quality. When you're writing fiction, you need to let characters live their own life. And sometimes you do need to see the world through their eyes and to really emote with them and to sit in those emotions. But just think about it, like if you were writing a very dramatic drama, romantic drama, you wouldn't want to be entangled with all of those emotions 24/7 for the rest of your life, because then you wouldn't have a healthy relationship during that time you're writing that book. It could be years. So you do need to have a boundary also with the characters and the work that you're doing. And this goes for creating anything. Could be a business, could be a painting. You do need to separate yourself at a certain point, especially when you're ready to launch those things in the world and get those criticisms and let it live on its own. Move on to the next project. You need to be able to get some space from it and to let it have its own feeling and its own existence without you. And you don't need to feel everything that your characters feel and so on. You have to have, for your own sanity, boundaries in a lot of different ways. So I hope that this was some thought-provoking thoughts for you if you're a writer or an artist. And I hope that if you're interested in creating more boundaries, that you check out my Sacred Armor e-course. It will help you to use your imagination, your creativity, to create those better boundaries in a way that'll be fun and refreshing and a lot different than you might expect. So you can check out a free training on creating boundaries at sacredarmor.com/free. And today is the 30th of June, 2014. And this training will be up for the next week and until the next time the Sacred Armor e-course comes around. So be sure to sign up. Have a great day. Bye-bye from Sophia Wren.